Hello, all my joyful creators and Call the Midwife fans. Welcome to Fun Day Monday, part 2 of the Midwife Born in Love blanket. Today, the items that you will need are the color of yarn that you've chosen to do the butterfly strip in, and then the color that you have chosen to use as the border around the strip. And then you will also need your H5mm size hook. You will need a stitch marker to mark the front of your work. You will need a pair of scissors and a darning needle, and always a little bit of lotion for moisturizing and hydrating your hands. This is the best tool you have when it comes to your crochet projects. So we're going to go ahead and pause the video for a minute and get our craft table cleared off. We're going to get our main color, which again for me is going to be this pink. And we're going to go ahead and get a foundation chain of 160 chains made. And then we'll come back and we'll start our butterfly strip. When you have your chain of 160, we are going to go ahead and begin row 1. And regardless of which strip we're doing, whether it's the classic, the butterfly, or the dragonfly, they will always start the same. So we're going to make a double crochet in the 7th chain from the hook. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So right here, we're going to come in and work a double crochet. And just like with our last strip, our classic, this is a double crochet here, and it is our chain 2 space to create our first spacer. And this is the first double crochet in our first block. We're going to chain 1. We're going to skip this stitch. We're going to come into the next one and work a double crochet. We're going to chain 1. We're going to skip this next stitch, and in the next one, make a double crochet. And just like we did with the classic stitch, each block for this row is going to contain 8 double crochets. Let me get some yarn here pulled out from my new skein. And we're going to chain 1. We're going to skip this next stitch, and in this next one we're going to work a double crochet. We're going to chain 1. We're going to skip this next stitch, and in this next one we're going to work a double crochet. So far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we need 3 more. So we're going to chain 1, skip a stitch, and in this next one work a double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet. Chain 1, skip this next one, and in this one work a double crochet. And this should give us 8 double crochets. Let's just check. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that is what we need. So we're going to go ahead and do our chain, our chain 2 for our spacer. And I'm just making sure that this is not blurry. There we go. So let's chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to skip 2 for our spacer and come into this next stitch to make a double crochet. So we've not only made our spacer, but the first double crochet for the second block. And we're going to do the same thing. We need 8, so we're going to chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet, 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 chain 1, skip 1, and work a double crochet. And I don't know if you noticed, but on my foundation chains, I always only go under the top loop, so that anytime I'm putting a border on, I've got these 2 loops to go into for that border. But then, of course, when I do the other rows, I always go under the 2 loops unless specified for a specific stitch that it needs to be done differently, like in a back loop or front loop. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need to do 2 more. So chain 1, skip 1, and do a double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, and do a double crochet. And that should give us our 8. Here's the spacer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So let's create our next spacer by chaining 2, skipping 2 chains, and working a double crochet into the next stitch. And that begins our third block. So go ahead and pause the video and continue working all the way down your chain, just like we did with the last strip. When you get to the last 3, remember that you're going to you're going to chain 2 from that last double crochet of your 9th block. After you chain 2, you're going to skip the last 2 chains and work a double crochet into the very last stitch, and then go ahead and chain 4, and I will meet back up with you to begin row 2. So we've made it to the beginning of row 2, and we're going to do row 2 just like we did on the last strip. We've got our chain 4 here, so we're going to come into this first double crochet, and we're going to work a double crochet. And I've got a strand fiber, there we go, that wasn't letting me pull that yarn through. And we have to have 15 double crochets in each block between the spacers. So just like we did in the last one, we're going to come into the chain 1 spaces. And remember, I recommend working in the stitch versus the space. I know it's a lot easier to just work in the space, but you'll really be thankful that you go into the stitch, because it really does give it a nice cleaner look. It helps the pattern to really stand out. And so we are just making double crochets all the way across into each of these double crochets and chain 1 spaces to give us our 15 double crochets for each block. And again, I know it's kind of a lot of work to go into that chain 1 space. I tend to be a little bit of a tight crocheter, so mine might be a little bit more difficult than yours. And the only thing I can do is recommend that you make 1 strip going into the stitch and 1 strip going into the space, and just see which one you're happy with. Maybe you're okay with how that works up. And again, your tension may be different. Again, as you can see, I tend to crochet, my tension is really kind of tight. So I just noticed that details like that make a difference. And I really need to try to remember when I'm doing those rows to make my chain one spaces, or my chain ones, a little bit looser. But it's not too bad. And honestly, when I get a little bit more to work with and I've got something to hold in my hand, it's not so bad. It's moving. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. I thought I was coming out or going past where I needed to, and I'm not. Thought I was picking up a momentum and was just going, 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 but we have arrived because here is our spacer. So let's just double check. Remember, we don't count this double crochet that's on the end. That is creating the spacer for the block. So we start with this one and we should have 15. And let me grab my scissors. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. We have exactly what we need. So now time to create the spacer. So we're going to chain 2. And we're going to skip those 2 chains, go right into this next double crochet and work our 15 double crochets in our double crochet and chain 1 spaces to give us 15. I will finish this block with you, and then I will let you finish the rest of the row on your own. And they seem to be moving a little bit quicker now. And perhaps I spoke too soon. There we go. It's an art, and sometimes art just cannot be rushed. Oop. Okay, here's my spacer. I got a little ways to go. Okay, 2 more to finish this block. And we have reached our spacer. So I'm going to come back and count, make sure I have 15 double crochets, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. I have exactly what I need. So I'm going to chain 2 for my spacer, and again skip those 2 chains and go into this first double crochet of block 3. Okay, you can see how nice those blocks are forming. Okay, So I want you to pause the video and continue all the way down the row, adding your 15 double crochets per block, your chain 2 for your spacers. When you get down to the last 3, after you've made that 15th double crochet in your 9th block, then chain 2, skip 2 to create your spacer, double crochet into the last double crochet, chain 4, and then I will meet you to start row 3, which will actually begin our butterfly pattern. We have finished row 2, and now we're ready to start row 3. And on this butterfly pattern, it'll take rows 3, 4, and 5, just like it did with the last strip with the classic midwife pattern. Now, with the butterfly pattern, the butterfly will actually be made going from the bottom of the butterfly to the top of the butterfly. And this is part of the reason why we are doing this blanket in strips, kind of like a mile a minute blanket, because we'll have to turn the strip around for it to be facing upward in the correct direction. Now, if we were just making the butterfly patterns all the way throughout the whole blanket, it wouldn't matter that we were making the bottom to the head first, because the butterflies would still continue to go in the same direction. But because we are integrating it with the other patterns, therefore it has to be done in a strip so we can turn it right side up. And all this will make more sense as we get our first, few done. All right, so to start row 3, we have already finished the row, and we have started the chain 4 here. And so to get started, we are going to skip our 2 chains, which makes our spacer, and we're going to work a double crochet into this first double crochet. Okay, we need to have 4 double crochets, so that's 1. We're going to do 2, 3, and 4. And this is what we have. All right, so now to create that first part, we're going to chain 7. 1, I'm going to try to remember to chain these a little bit loosely. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And even though I did chain those a little bit looser than I normally do, I still kept it nice and, kind of tight and more like that rope-like. Okay, so when it comes over like that, see how nice and pretty that folds over? It's not loose and loopy. So now that we've chained 7, we're going to skip 7 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So right into this next one, we're going to work a double crochet. And this is what you should have. This is what it should look like. A big, long rectangle. But see how when I did those stitches, those chains nice and neat kind of, see how it gives it a perfect shape? That's what you want. And then to keep in line and symmetrical, we'll have to have 4 double crochets over here. And we've already got 1. So 2, 3, and 4. I do hold my hook like a knife, so I'm trying very hard to keep my hands out of the way so you can always see what I'm doing. And that finishes that block. It was just that easy and that simple. So now we're at our spacer, and as you know, to create our spacer, we chain 2, 1, 2, skip 2 chains, and double crochet into the first double crochet of block 2. And let's do our 4 double crochets. So this will be 2, 3, 4. We're now going to chain 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We're going to skip 7 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're going to go into this next one and work a double crochet. We have another nice little rectangle box there, and we're going to do 4 double crochets. We've done the first one, and here's the second one and the third one, and then now the last one, and that completes our second block and the bottom half of our butterfly. I know it doesn't look much like a butterfly right now, but patience. And then we're at our spacer, so we're going to chain 2, skip the 2 chains, and work in that first double crochet of block 3. And that's exactly what I need you to do for the rest of the row. So for the rest of row 3, I need you to, oh, got a bad storm going on outside. I don't know if you can hear all that thunder. So for row 3, we're going to continue doing 4 double crochets, chain 7, skip 7 stitches, and then do 4 crochets, double crochets at the end of the block, chain 2, skip 2, and join in the first double crochet, and do that all the way down row 3. When you get to the end and you've done your 4th and final double crochet in the 9th block, you have your 3 chains remaining. You will chain 2 to create your spacer, skip 2 chains, double crochet into the last double crochet, chain 4, and then I will meet up with you at the beginning of row 4 to show you how to complete that row. We have completed row 3, and now we're at the beginning of row 4, and we are going to literally do row 4 just like we did row 3. So we've got our 4 chains at the beginning here. We're going to double crochet into this first double crochet in the block, and that creates our spacer for the end here. So there's 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, and 3 double crochets. Okay, and now our 4th double crochet, and we're going to chain 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That one's really loose. Let me back up here a minute. 5, 6, and 7. Then we're going to skip 7, which should be this chain. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it is. And so we're just going to come right into the top of this double crochet and work our 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that completes the 4th row for block 1. So that's what it should look like. And then we chain 2 for our spacer, skip the 2 chains, and work a double crochet into the first double crochet of block 2. So since this is literally just a repeat of the last row, I'm going to go ahead and stop on this first block with you. Go ahead and complete repeating this all the way down row 4. And again, when you get to the very end and you've worked the last double crochet in your 9th block, you have your 3 chains remaining, chain 2, skip 2 for the spacer, work a double crochet in the end of this last double crochet, chain 4, and I will meet you at the beginning of row 5, and we will create the last part of our butterfly pattern to create our butterfly. We've completed row 4, and now we're ready to start row 5. We've got our chain 4 at the beginning here, and we are going to do a double crochet into this first double crochet, and that completes our spacer on the end here. We need to have a total of 3 double crochets, so that's 1, 2, and 3. In this next double crochet, we're actually going to put 2 double crochets. So 1 and 2. We're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and the next stitch we're going to make is a treble crochet. Before I show you how to do that, let me show you where we're going to place the stitch. We're going to actually come back down to our it's really our 3rd row here where we skipped these 7 stitches, and if you'll remember, we have 7, so we're going to go to the 4th one, which is going to be in the middle. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, and it's hard for me to see, this is laying flat. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So right here is where our stitch is going to go in at. Okay, so to do a treble crochet, you have to wrap the yarn around the hook twice. So you actually have 3 loops on the hook. Then we're going to come down to this 4th one, insert our hook, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Okay, then we're going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. And it's going to be hard to kind of see this until we get the next couple rows on, but that has created our butterfly, and right here is the bottom part of it. These are the top parts of it. Okay, so now we've got to finish. So we're going to chain 2, 1, 2. In this next double crochet right here, we're going to put 2 double crochets because we're going to symmetrically match up the other side that we just did. So 2 into that 1 stitch, and then 1 double crochet into each of the remaining stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. And that completes our first block. Now, let me kind of turn this around, because remember, we're building from the bottom of the butterfly up. And there's your butterfly. And again, it will look better once all the other rows are put on, and it creates a tension. But that's your butterfly. All right, so let's turn it back over and let me work one more block with you. But first, we've got to create our spacer. So we're going to chain 2, just as we have been, and go into that first double crochet in the 2nd block to complete the spacer, and also create the first double crochet in the 2nd block. Okay, so let's do that 2 more times. So here's the 2nd one and the 3rd one, and then in this last double crochet we're going to put 2. into the same stitch. So 1 and 2. We're going to chain 2, 1 and 2. We're going to work that treble crochet again. You wrap the yarn around your hook twice, so you have 3 loops on the hook. We're going to come find that 4th skipped stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to be coming in right here in the middle. Yep. Insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the next 2, and yarn over and pull through the last 2. And there's almost your full butterfly. Got to finish this little part over here. So let's chain 2 to do that. 1, 2. And in this first double crochet, we're going to put 2 double crochets right into that same stitch. So 1 and 2. And then we're going to put 1 double crochet into each of the remaining 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. And that completes your second block. And even though they're upside down, you can see them. Again, I can turn it right side for you. And it will take on its shape a little bit better once we get the 6th and 7th row on here. But there's your butterflies. So coming back, we now need to create our spacer. And again, we do that by chaining 2, 1, 2, skipping these 2 chains, and going into that first double crochet of the 3rd block. And that is how we successfully complete our little butterfly pattern. So go ahead and pause the video and continue working all the way down the rest of row 5 with the pattern I just showed you in the first 2 blocks. And once again, when you get to the last double crochet in the 9th block, you'll have your 3 chains left. You're going to chain 2 and skip these 2 chains right here to create your spacer, and put a double crochet in the top of this double crochet, chain 4, and I'll meet back up with you to begin row 6. We've completed the 5th row, and so all we have is row 6 and 7 and the little border to put on it. But I love my butterflies, and even though they're upside down, they are adorable. Okay, so starting row 6 is just going to be a repeat of row 2, and then row 7 will be a repeat of row 1. So we've got our chain 4 here. So we're going to come into this first double crochet and make a double crochet, and we have to do 15 across. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to go into these chain spaces. So 6, 7, and our 8th one is going to be right here in this body of the butterfly, right into that triple crochet, treble crochet. So 8, back into the chains, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And that completes that block, and we're at the spacer. So we're going to chain 2 for our spacer and do a double crochet into the first double crochet of block 2, and we're going to do the same thing, 15 across, 2, 3, 4, 5, and into the chain, 6, and 7, and right into the body here of the treble crochet is 8, back into the chains, 9, and 10, and then these last 5 double crochets is 11, 12, and 13, and 14, and 15. And that completes our second block. And we're at the spacer. So we're going to chain 2, work a double crochet into that first double crochet of block 3, and that completes the spacer. So go ahead and pause the video and continue working down row 6, doing 15 double crochets all the way across. Chain 2, skip the 2 chains, and work a double crochet into the first double crochet of the next block to finish each block. When you get down to the end and you have done the last double crochet in the 9th block, you have these 3 chains left. Chain 2 to begin your spacer, skip these 2 chains to make your spacer, and double crochet into this last double crochet. Chain 4, and I will meet back with you to go over row 7. We've completed the 6th row, and now all we have is the 7th row. So isn't that just beautiful? Again, even though they're upside down, I just love it. So the 7th row, we've got our chain 4, and we're going to do a double crochet right into this first double crochet in block 1. And just like we did on row 1, we're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and work a double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip a double crochet, work a double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip a double crochet, work a double crochet into the next, and we're going to continue this all the way across the block until we have a total of 8 double crochets in the block. And chain 1, skip a double crochet, work a double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip a double crochet, work a double crochet into the next, and that completes the block. We should have 8. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so that block is now complete. And we're at the spacer. So we're going to chain 2 and do a double crochet into that first double crochet in block 2, and that creates our spacer. So this first block is officially and completely done. Chain 1, skip a double crochet, work a double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip a double crochet, work a double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next, and chain 1, skip a double crochet, work a double crochet into the next, and chain 1, skip a double crochet, work a double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet, and that is the last double crochet of block 2. Again, we should have 8, and here's our spacer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We do chain 2, skip the 2 chains, work a double crochet into the first double crochet of block 3, and that creates our spacer. And we have 2 blocks completely finished. So I want you to go ahead and pause the video and continue working all the way down, working a double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, work a double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip a stitch, work a double crochet into the next, all the way to the end of the block. You should have 8 double crochets in each block. Chain 2, skip the 2 chains to create the spacer, and make a double crochet into the first double crochet of the next block. When you get down to the end and you're in block 9 and you've made that 8th and final double crochet, chain 2, skip 2 chains to create your spacer, work a double crochet into this last double crochet, and fasten off. And I will come back and we will work on putting the border on this strip. We have completed row 7. We have completed our strip panel, however you want to refer to it. And as I have told you, I always like putting a stitch marker on the front side, so I know the front side. I actually have this turned around, so we're seeing the butterflies in the upright position, and it is beautiful. I love it, love it, love it. So now we're going to add a border to this panel like we did with the classic. And so I'm going to grab my border yarn and create a slip knot. And I like a little bit more tail to weave in. There we go. And just like on the last one, you can start anywhere you want. Last time I started up here, so this time I'll start on the side so you can see. But again, you just don't want to start in the very corner end. So this would be my next stitch. So I'm going to go into that to join my color with a slip stitch. And I'm going to chain 2. That counts as a half double crochet. And then into the very next stitch, I will work a half double crochet. And into the next stitch, a half double crochet. And into the next stitch, a half double crochet. And just like we did with the classic, we're going to work half double crochets all the way around. Remember that you'll do 3 half double crochets in each very end corner stitch, and since this is a short side, I will do that with you. And we're almost to the end. Just working half double crochets in each stitch up this short side. And we have 1, more stitch before the corner. All right, and now we're at the corner. So we're going to do 3 half double crochets in that corner. And that was 1 and 2 and 3. And that creates a rounded corner. And then we'll come into the next stitch. This is a spacer, so it has 2 stitches, so we do want to make sure that we go into both of them. And that is the first one. And this is the second one. And then into that double crochet. And we're just going to continue around the entire piece, working half double crochets in each stitch, 3 into the corner. And I hope I was on camera, and I apologize if I was not. And then when you get back around to this corner here, you'll work your 3 half double crochets in that corner, and then you'll join with a slip stitch and fasten off. So go ahead and finish putting your border on this panel, and I will meet back with you when you're done. So here we are with the border around it, and it is just beautiful. Love the butterflies. And here is our strip. All right. Well, this has been Fun Day Monday, part 2 of the Midwife Born in Love blanket, doing the butterfly pattern. And until next time, be joyful, stay crafty in your own way, and make your own joyful creations.